Right, of course, we want to just get into that interview with the CEO of Kenya Renewable Energy Association, that is Andrew Amadi. We're talking about, of course, the high cost of electricity and how it's going to affect, of course, the country and people at large. With me in studio is Andrew Amadi. He is the CEO of Kenya Renewable Energy Association. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want us to just start off first by, of course, breaking down why KPLC is trying to push up the cost of electricity.
Okay, I think that's a narrative that you need to really look at the numbers, and you'll see that there's actually both an increase and a decrease, and it's creating an incentive for people to invest in daytime electricity generation. So I see it as a very strategic move to encourage more people to use off-grid power during the peak time as a way of managing the deficit that is happening because of the decrease in rainfall and the low levels of the hydros. We still rely on the hydros. Geothermal is at capacity. The hydros capacity is dropping tremendously because of the drought. So as more people invest in daytime solar, they lower their cost during the day. Now, I know the question might be, solar is expensive.
Right.
So we publish together, that's the Kenya Renewable Energy Association and the Institute of Energy and Environment Technologies at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We analyze the cost of all the energy types that are used in the country, and we report them on a lifetime cost basis. So solar is the cheapest electricity source. Actually, biogas is even cheaper than solar if you can get a feedstock to generate your electricity from biogas. But solar is cheap and available because when you pay that cost, you have prepaid for 25 years. So the missing link is just the financial instruments that have been used for solar home systems, where you pay as you go. You pay little by little until you finish the amount.
Before we get into the alternatives, of course, of the renewable energy, like you're talking about solar, I want us to just now break down for people to understand what it now means, the high cost of electricity going up for a normal mwananchi who's watching. What does it mean to them practically? Yeah,
so practically it means that the cost will go up depending on the time of day that you use. There's a new introduction of a time of day for small commercial. This is a small business or even domestic. You can change your home into a small commercial by doing business from home. So if you do that, the cost of electricity at night will be much cheaper. It will be cheaper by more than, say, about 40–50% cheaper. But during the day, electricity will be expensive, which is why if you can generate electricity during the day with solar, you can reduce your costs during the day, and then at night, you wait until midnight. After midnight, if you're baking, for example, you bake after midnight and the cost is lower. And then during the day, and now you can bake using solar. You can bake with solar by day and at night. So there's a mix and there's an opportunity for things that people can't be able to do to manage their costs. You can't control the tariff, but you can change how you use your energy.
How will it affect, food and fuel prices in the country?
Yes, food prices, that is actually the most important part of food security, is that there might be, eventually people will understand it, they will figure it out. People who produce food will shift to doing it when it is cheaper. All of them, even your neighbors right here, have put solar during the day. It is the cheapest source. A lot of the industries are using solar during the day. So it will take time. As this scales up, then the cost will come down. But even if you look at the progression of the tariff, they are envisaging a reduction in the tariff over time. So this is actually like a response to now, and then you can be able to allow for investments to happen. And then as investments happen and the costs come down, then the tariff can also come down. So it is a shock for now, but at least now it creates a very strong incentive to invest in daytime solar.
Let's talk about the Lifeline bracket. What does it mean, and who qualifies to be in that particular program?
Yeah, so it's easier to explain the Lifeline bracket using water. Let's just say we say that everyone has a right to water, and everyone has a right to 100 liters of water. So we say the first 100 liters of water, you will get it at cost. So that is what the Lifeline tariff is, that for people who use just a little bit. So electricity, we say, it can power a variety of needs, but we've agreed that lighting is a very important need. So you can do your lighting. We've agreed that communication is very important. So you can do your communication, you can charge your phone and your lights, and you will do that with less than 30 units. But if you now go to heavier loads, then now you pay an increased tariff. So it is meant to cushion the very vulnerable so that they can be able to afford to pay for electricity.
Right. You've been talking about solar and, the renewable energy alternatives.
Yes.
For instance, the cost of installation of solar is pretty high.
High is relative. Let's take an example. How much would it cost if you were to buy the petrol you need for driving your car for the next 25 years? If you use 10 liters a day, that's 3,650 liters a year. Times 25, my brain cannot do the mathematics.
Me too, for sure.
And then times 177.3. That's the cost of petrol. The cost of solar might be 25,000 shillings. It looks expensive, but it's not. It's very cheap. The cost now, the tariffs, now that we're talking about them, we are going to 27, 29 shillings. When you add, the structure did not add the variables, it did not add the fuel adjustment, the forex, the inflation adjustment. When you add them, that tariff will be over 27 shillings. Solar, if you buy it upfront, the one you're saying is expensive, will be 4 shillings per kilowatt hour. So tell me how 4 shillings is more expensive than 27. Because you're going to use that electricity. Once you start, you can't stop. The first customers of Kenya Power are still using it 100 years later. So it's a decision that Kenyans have to make. Why do you want to pay more? And Kenya Power is actually telling you, do solar.
But if, yes, like you have said, of course, the solar installation, but is there any amount that someone is supposed to pay to the government, for instance, once you install solar?
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Well, for now, if I buy my own solar, there's no VAT. There's no VAT on solar products for generation. There's no VAT on inverters. There's no VAT on the battery. And the government knows why they're doing this, because the more you use solar and the more you consume solar, as opposed to fossil fuels, you're saving on the forex that is required to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, from Abu Dhabi. So you allow people to generate this power to transition, and then later on, if I want to sell to you because it's expensive for you and I can afford to buy it, then I will have to pay VAT on that. Then I will have to pay, or I will choose to pay, to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, because they still require to be able to referee. And right now the ball is in their court. This is the proposal. They have to balance all the interests and come out. I propose they come out strongly for the consumer.
Right. Also, you've talked about other renewable sources of energy. What else can you tell us apart from now solar? What else can someone use?
Biogas. Biogas is the cheapest source of electricity, of energy in the country, but it has limitations. You need to have a feedstock that will produce a high value of energy, not cow dung. Cow dung is very low value. You need cereal waste, or cereals that people don't eat, will produce tenfold the amount of energy they would if you used them as fire to burn them, because there's a chemical conversion that produces methane that has a very high calorific value. It has a lot of energy. I use biogas. I've used it for the last 6 years. My cost of biogas is almost negligible compared to all the other alternatives that are there. So there's biogas, there's industry. Instead of using wood fuel, it's not sustainable. It is destroying the environment. It is making our climate adaptation worse. You can use alternatives to that. You can use agricultural waste. You can process agricultural waste and use it as a fuel. You can use energy crops that you plant in semi-arid areas under irrigation and be able to meet your demand sustainably at a lower cost. So there's a variety of options. There are solutions. Geothermal can be used not just to generate electricity, it can be used to cool data centers. It is the cheapest source of energy for cooling. Cooling is the #1 usage of data. So geothermal has got its needs. Wind goes very well for water pumping. You can pump water. Even water that comes from the hydropower plants can be pumped back by wind when the wind is blowing, so that we don't have to require more water. We can recycle the water and use that as storage. And that would work well if during the day as many people as possible are relying on solar, because that's the most abundant source and the cheapest source of energy. But they're all connected, they're all related.
Earlier on off air, we were talking with the Wajir speaker, and he was talking about this total blackout in that particular area. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And it's an area that the level of the sun is pretty high.
Yes.
So what do you say to that?
I think that is a total travesty. It is a travesty that anybody in Africa should not have electricity when you have the cheapest source of electricity in the world. It is something that there's a lot that is going on. Wajir runs on a diesel generator. So if there's no diesel, there's no power. So there are many reasons. Diesel generators are highly complex. They break down so often. So if it breaks down, a spare part could bring down the entire network. But if everybody has a solar panel on their roof for productive use, then you'll never run out of energy.
Is it affordable for anyone?
If you're paying 27 shillings to Kenya Power, if you're paying with a diesel generator, the levelized cost is over 50 shillings, and people are using diesel generators, people are using Kenya Power, the cost of solar without an upfront cost. That is the hardest concept for people to grasp. But you don't pay. I bring the panels, I put it on your place, I put a meter, and you pay what shows up on the meter. It's 12 shillings. It is half the cost of Kenya Power. It is so affordable. If you choose to buy it by yourself, then your cost over the lifetime is 4 shillings per kilowatt hour. Highly affordable compared to 55 shillings with a generator or 27 shillings with Kenya Power, which is why Kenya Power is increasing. The tariffs that have been increased are a lot for daytime consumption. It's only unfortunate they have not put a time of day for domestic, but I would encourage domestic users who do business from home to convert. Even if you're just working from home, that is a business. Convert your tariff and get cheaper electricity at night.
Do you think the tax regime, of course, in this country makes it harder to access renewable energy in the country?
No, there's no taxes on renewable energy.
Right.
We've made sure of that. The fear is that we might go back to that. And that's why we need a predictable tax policy so that you can give a window of 5 years. If you give a window of 5 years for people to invest, they're ready. There's already talks with people bringing millions of dollars for investing in solar in Africa. So you shouldn't even worry about the cost. The investment is there. But if the tariff starts to go up, like what has been done for solar water pumps, that they become, it limits the ability to scale, because for every 8 pumps that we could buy without VAT, we're paying 1 pump, and 1 solar pump can support 2,000 people in a community. So that is the impact that VAT taxation is having on the solar pumps. So if we removed that, if we unlocked the value chains, then the production factor of renewable energy would produce a magnitude more of value. You would bring more people into the tax bracket, you would create more job opportunities, you'll be able to produce exports that can go into the global market as produced from renewable energy. And there's a huge market for that, especially in Europe, in North America, where there's a high level of consciousness about climate.
Right. Yeah. Maybe a final parting shot now with regard to this discussion, of course, on the high cost of electricity.
Well, for one, this is a conversation that never ends. So we will continue this discussion this evening. We are having our energy drinks. Whoever is available is welcome to join. You can get details on social media. But the one thing we can say is, after I've looked at the numbers, done the analysis, the signal is daytime solar. every business in Kenya should be having rooftop solar for their daytime requirements, especially if you are in the food value chain, healthcare, and transport. Yep.
Right, thank you so much. That is Andrew Amadi. He is the CEO of the Kenya Renewable Energy Association. We're going to take a short commercial break now. When we return, we'll be having a conversation with Wajir Speaker. Stay with us.